Hello and welcome. This is another seventh grade math video, and this time we're going to be focusing on sequencing rational numbers. So by sequencing, we mean put in order, usually from greatest to least or least to greatest, and rational numbers are numbers that are positive and negative fractions and decimals. Okay, here is the first example we're going to do together. We're going to put these rational numbers in order from greatest to least. So we have negative 24 over 40, 0.2, and 15 over 30. So I'm going to go ahead and underline greatest to least. It's very important that we kind of make note of what order they're asking for it. So I'm going to put a G over here and an L over here. That will remind me that greatest goes on the left and least goes on the right, which is kind of the opposite of how we're used to thinking about it, particularly with a number line. So what I might want to do is put a little 0 here in the middle. That just kind of tells me where my positives and negatives go since I'm dealing with both. So least would be most likely something less, or a negative would be something less than 0. So that would be towards the least. And something greater than 0 is probably going to be positive. So the reason I did that visually is because on a number line, it is the opposite. But the number line would go from least to greatest, not greatest to least. So I kind of just flipped everything around to help myself. Now, what I can do after doing that is I notice that this number right here is negative, and it's the only negative number. So I'm going to go ahead and put that over here on this side. Negative 24 over 40 can go over there. Now the other two that I'm dealing with are positive, so they have to be on the other side of 0, over near the greatest. The problem is I don't know which one is greater than the other one. So what I need to do is I kind of need to make them so they're the same format. Either I need to take 0.2 and turn that into a fraction, or 15 over 30 and turn that into a decimal. So here's what I think I'm going to do. I'm going to take 0.2 and make it into a fraction, because I know if there's a 2 in the tens place as a decimal, that's the same as having 2 tenths, and I can rewrite it as a fraction that way. So now what I'm doing is comparing 2 over 10 to 15 over 30. So maybe what I want to do is start simplifying these, or you may have noticed that if I multiply 10 times 3, I will get 30. So I think maybe that's what I'll do. I'll multiply both the top and the bottom by 3 and see what that fraction is. In fact, I'm going to move this one over a little bit, so I have room to do that. 2 times 3 is 6, and 10 times 3 is 30. So that means 0.2 or 2 over 10 is the same as 6 over 30. So now I can tell that 15 over 30 is greater than 6 over 30. So out of these three numbers at the top, this one is going to be my greatest number, 15 over 30, which means that the 0.2, or the one that's left, is going to go in the middle. And I'm going to put it just a little bit on the greater side than 0. So my final answer here, putting these in order from greatest to least, would be 15 over 30, then 0.2, and then negative 24 over 40. And then that would be my final answer. Okay, here is our next one. We're going to put these rational orders in order from greatest to least. So again, we're going greatest to least. Another way that you can do this, if you find going greatest to least is confusing, what you can do is you can try to put it in order from least to greatest and then just flip it around at the end. So maybe that's what we'll do this time, so I can show you kind of how that works. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the least over here, the greatest over here. I'm going to put 0 in the middle. So I know that everything over here is negative and everything over here is positive if this was a number line. So remember, I do know that this is not the way they asked for it, but I'm going to put it in this order and then I'm going to flip it at the end. Okay, so we only have one number from our group that is in the negative zone. So that's going to be the least, negative 10 and 11 over 25. Now I have two numbers that are in the positive range. So I just have to decide which is greater, 10 or 0.25. Well, that's actually kind of easy, because if I have 10 ones, that's definitely more than 0 ones, which is what the decimal has. So that means 10 is over here and 0.25 is somewhere over here. So this would be my order from least to greatest. But remember, they asked for greatest to least. So I'm going to flip it around. I'm going to put 10 over here, and then I'm going to keep 0.25 in the middle, and then I'm going to put negative 10 and 11/25 all the way at the other end. So that would be my final answer. Okie dokie, here is our next one. We're going to put these rational numbers in order from greatest to least again. We have negative 8, 8 3/4, and then 8 14/25. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do the same thing I did last time, whereas I created kind of a number line, put it in order from least to greatest, and then flip it around at the end. So it goes in order from greatest to least. So let's kind of draw that out. This would be the least. This would be the greatest. I'd have 0 in the middle. Then everything on this side is positive and everything on this side is negative. So looking at the numbers that I have, I only see one negative number, and that's negative 8. So that has to go on this side of the 0. And then I can cross it off just because I know I'm done with it. Now I have to compare 8 3/4 and 8 14/25, which is kind of tough to do because they are mixed numbers that have the same whole number. So that doesn't help us compare. We're really comparing the fractions is what we're doing. So I'm going to bring those down here so I can compare them. 3/4 and 14/25. Now I can't multiply 4 times something to get 25. That's not going to work. But I do know of a number or a common multiple of 4 and 25, and that is 100. That's what happens if I multiply the two denominators by each other. So if I do this times 25 and this times 4, I'll get 100 for both. And so I can compare them that way. I just need to do this times 25 as well, and this times 4 as well. So over here, 3 times 25 is 75. And 4 times 25 is 100. On this side, I know that 25 times 4 is 100 because that's exactly what it is on the other side. Now I just need to figure out what 14 times 4 is. And here's a little trick I use when I'm doing like a double digit times a single digit. I take the number in the tens place, which is 1, and I think, okay, what is 10 times 4? And that's 40. And then I think about what 4 times 4 is, and that would be 16. And then I put those together and I get 56. So if you like that little mental trick, you can feel free to use it. Okay, so now what I'm really comparing is 75 over 100 to 56 over 100. And 75 over 100 is greater. So that means that 8 3/4 is greater than the 8 14/25. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one over here, 8 3/4, which means the 8 14/25 goes in the middle. Of course, it's greater than 0, but it does go in the middle of the group. So I'm going to erase some of this work just because we're not quite done yet. Remember, I put it in order from least to greatest, but they're asking us to put it in order from greatest to least. So I need to flip this around. I can keep 8 and 14 over 25 in the middle, but I need to put the negative 8 over here and the 8 3/4 over here. So now it's in order from greatest to least. So my final answer here would be 8 3/4, 8 14/25, and then negative 8. Okay, here is our next one. This one has 4 rational numbers to put in order: 3.125, negative 31 over 40, negative 3 10/16, and 20 over 32. So we have quite a bit over here. But the good news is it goes from least to greatest this time. So we don't have to flip it at the end. We can put the least over here, the greatest over here, and we can put a 0 in the middle, just so we know that everything over here is going to be negative and everything over here is going to be positive. Okay, so let's start sorting them by positives and negatives. Well, 3.125 goes over here in the positive zone. Negative 31 over 40 goes in the negative zone. Negative 3 10/16 goes in the negative zone. And 20 over 32 goes over here in the positive zone. So this isn't complete yet, but now I know which numbers I have to compare to each other in order to complete this. I know that everything that's positive is greater than everything that's negative. So when we're comparing two numbers that are negatives, we have to see which one is furthest away from zero, and that's going to be our least one. So our first fraction is negative 31 over 40. There's no whole number there, but our second one is negative 3 and 10/16. There is a whole number there. So having three negatives is more than having no negatives or zero whole numbers. So I know that actually I need to switch these. I need to put this one over here, and then I'm going to switch this one and put it over here because negative 3 and 10/16 is farther away from zero than negative 31 over 40. So that is the order that that would go in. Now for the next one, I need to compare 3.125 to 20 over 32. But I can also do that based on the whole numbers. The 3.125 has three ones, or a 3 in the ones place. The 20 over 32 has no ones or 0 ones. So 3 is definitely greater than 0. So I'm going to go ahead and switch those around. I'm going to just move this down here for now. Then I'm going to circle that one and move it in the middle here. And then I'm going to bring this one back. So I know between those two, 3.125 is greater than 20 over 32, which means this should be my final order. Negative 3 and 10/16, negative 31 over 40, 20 over 32, and 3.125. Okay, here is our last example for today's video. This is putting these rational numbers in order from greatest to least. So again, I can start by doing least to greatest if that helps me, and then flipping them all at the end and just kind of reflecting them over each other. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting the negatives over here on the least side and the positives over here on the greatest side. And again, I can put that 0 in the middle if I need to, or a line, so I know where that goes. So negative 13 would be on the negative side, and so would negative 13 and 19 over 40. So those are my two negatives. I'm going to cross them off so I know I've dealt with them. On the positive side, I have 13.125. I have 0.125. And then I have 13.875. Those are my positive numbers. Okay, let's deal with the negatives first. Again, when you're comparing two negatives, the one that is smaller is the one that is further away from 0. Both of these have negative 13s in their ones place, but the second one, the negative 13 and 9/40, is another 19/40 away from 0 than the other one. The other one has no extra part. It's just negative 13. So I'm going to switch these around because this one is 19/40 farther away from 0 than this one. So I'm going to go ahead and switch those to get those in order on the negative side. Okay, now let's look at the positive side. So I have in the whole number spot, two 13s and a 0. Well, what that means is that the 0 is definitely the smaller one of those three numbers. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just move this. Oh, I think I took part of the 8 with that. Let's do that again. Okay, so I'm going to try to take this over here and put this somewhere like in the middle. I know it is greater than 0, but I just want to get it a little bit further out of the way. Okay, when I'm comparing the other two, they both have 13 in the whole number spot, but the one on top has 1 in the 10th place and the one on the bottom has 8 in the 10th place. Well, since 8/10 is more than 1/10, I know that that one is greater than the other one. So that one is going over here. Now, if this was least to greatest, I'd be done, but it's not, right? Because we need to go greatest to least. So that means I'm going to flip everything around so that it's on the other side of the line or the other side of the middle. So I'm going to take that negative 13 and 19 over 40 over here. Maybe I cross it off so I know it's done. That negative 13 would go next. I could actually probably keep this one in the middle. Oops, now it's got a line. Let's do it like this. Maybe maybe I'll write it like this. Wrong one. 0.125. I'll write it there. Maybe I'll erase it from our line here. There we go. Now that means that this one flips to, oh yeah, keep circling too much. Okay, there we go. Okay, that one goes there. And then this one, I'll circle and move over here. So to get the order of greatest to least, I just flipped everything around the middle. The middle number stayed the same, and then I just flipped everything else. So your final answer here would be 13.875, 13.125, 0.125, -13, and -13 and 19/40ths. All right, you guys, thank you so much for coming and watching this video. And then hopefully I will see you in another video soon.